Good evening. I want to welcome you and call to order this meeting of the Forestville ISD Board of Trustees for this date, June the 28th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present. Myself, Joel Odom, Mr. Jason Svoboda, Ms. Bonner Reed, Mr. Stephen Shotroff, Mr. Marshall Fleer, and Mr. Craig Moots. Furthermore, let the record show that this meeting has been duly posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Mr. Fleer will now lead us in prayer, so you can stand, and followed by Ms. Reed leading the pledges.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for our school district and for the administration, teachers, and staff that make FISD successful. We pray that you will give us wisdom tonight and make the right decisions and guide the district in your will and in your ways. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Mr. Boots will now recite our FISD vision and mission statement.
The FISD vision statement is character, knowledge, and confidence. Our mission statement is FISD is committed to the development of innovative, lifelong learners who possess character traits to achieve personal and professional success.
Now, Mr. Svoboda will recite our FISD goals.
The FISD goals are excellent student outcomes, superior workplace environment, exceptional customer service and community engagement, strategic resource management.
We will now do a round robin of the board reciting of the FISD core beliefs. Our FISD core beliefs are: in FISD, we believe all students feel safe and supported in a developmentally and academically challenging environment.
Families are always welcome partners in their children's education.
Faculty and staff are compassionate, dedicated, adaptable individuals who are student-centered.
Campus leadership is fair, equitable, and clearly communicates and engages with all stakeholders.
Superintendent and central administration lead with integrity, transparency, and clear communication to provide a well-resourced educational environment.
Trustees provide a student-centered and fiscally responsible leadership and transparent and ethical support of all stakeholders.
I will now recite our overview of good governance and code of ethics. Each month, we highlight one of our good governance indicators and code of ethics that the FISD Board of Trustees follow to promote the best interest of the district as a whole. This month, for the code of ethics, we are highlighting commitment to service. I will focus my attention on fulfilling the board's responsibilities of goal setting, policy making, and evaluation. I will diligently prepare for and attend board meetings. I will avoid personal involvement in activities the board has delegated to the superintendent. I will seek continuing education that will enhance my ability to fulfill my duties effectively. Our good governance indicator for this month is mission, vision, and belief. And the comprehensive statement of goals are developed and in place for the district. We will now have a recognition this evening from the Forestville Masonic Lodge for Teachers of the Year, Mr. Gilstrap.
Yes, I'd like to call up Mr. Ramos, Jesse Ramos from Masonic Lodge number 515 to give a couple of recognitions. If you want to come here to the podium. Our Teachers of the Year this year, the ones that they have selected to recognize are also our district Teachers of the Year, which were announced in May at our employee banquet. So we want to turn it over to them for this recognition.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Gilstrap for allowing us and the administration to allow us to come and recognize two of your teachers. On behalf of the Masonic Lodge number 515, it is an honor to recognize two Floresville teachers, a secondary teacher, Ms. Cassie Barzecco, if you would come up here, please. And an elementary teacher, Ms. Genevieve Rodriguez. We're gonna do this so it shortens it up a little bit, but anyway, these teachers have been selected for their dedication, patience, and willingness to reach every child regardless of their level. And I think, you know, any other place, you don't get to select the kiddos. They just send them to you, and you take whatever it is and you make something. And I think that's really what recognizes both of you. Some of you may not know, but Masons are very supportive of public education. Without education, many of us would not be in our present positions. Teaching is more than imparting knowledge. It is inspiring change. Learning is more than absorbing facts. It is acquiring understanding. And I think those are the two key things to me. That sets it all. We're here to present two outstanding teachers a certificate, which Brother Leo Broom will read a little bit about what the Masons are about as far as public education.
The Grand Lodge of Texas Mirbar B. Lamar Award of Excellence. Mirbar B. Lamar, the second president of the Republic of Texas, has been called the father of Texas public school system for his leadership in establishing quality public education in Texas. Lamar was a member of the Masonic fraternity, known then as it is today for its strong support of excellence in public schools. With this award, we recognize your exemplary achievement and offer our warmest congratulations to you and your school. Yes.
And now we have Brother Santana Montez who will present a Lamar medal to each one of these teachers. Their names are engraved in the back, and if you think they're light, they're not. If you put it around your neck. Put it on.
Now you have to get this, or is that what you made us put on shirts earlier?
Yeah, sure.
Thank
you so much.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
And I get to do the good part. I got a $50 check here for each one of you, which I'm not sure what that'll buy you anymore. To be honest.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And I know that, you know, one of the things that we acknowledge is you have a bunch of good teachers everywhere. These are just an example of two of the, the ones that we looked at. And we hope to continue to do this and recognize, because like I said, public education and, most of it, like I said, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for public education. So thank you, and thank you for having us recognize you two teachers.
Before you all step down, I just want to say on behalf of the superintendent, the administration, and the board, thank you to the Masonic Lodge for your dedication to recognizing our teachers and for what they do. I know y'all had some tough choices to make, just as we did whenever we were selecting our teachers of the year. And thank you for stepping in and doing this and recognizing excellence in the classroom and for what they do. To our two teachers of the year, I haven't had a chance at a board meeting to congratulate you because we've had some other things going on. Congratulations on being Teacher of the Year at elementary and secondary. And we know that you have earned this. I've been in both your classrooms, and I see great things. Whenever I've gone into Geneva's classroom, she doesn't even stop teaching. She just looks at us and she just keeps on going, which is fine by me. That's what you're supposed to do. But the kids obviously love what's going on in your room. And that's what truly shows and really makes you a great and effective teacher, is what you do in your classroom and how it affects those kids. So thank you for your dedication to that. We'd like to get a picture with you off we could.
May I say one of the little things before I did, when I was going through education, I did student teaching. My certification was from K to 12. So part of that whole deal was to do student teaching at both levels. Well, I get to go to the 3rd grade and do my student teaching. I guarantee you after a week, Dr. Gilstrap, you would have told me to find another occupation. They're tough. They're tough.
She's got them in kindergarten. For sex, she's a fan.
So anyway.
Yeah. Come on up here. Let's take a picture. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you again very much.
Yes, sir. It's our pleasure.
Board's hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Appreciate all the time. Being up
Thank you again, ma'am.
Always.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wear your shirt.
It's comfortable, right?
It is.
It is, it is. Hey, I love you, girl.
Thank you, love you too.
Thank you.
I wear my shirt today. I really did.
I know, y'all love it so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Still there.
Hey, Ms. Petrie, do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir.
All right, we will now move on to reports and updates. First item is the swearing in of our new FISD police chief, Dr. Gilstrap.
Board members, I'm going to move over here to the podium so that we can do the swearing in for our new police chief. Lyle, Mr. Key, if you can come on over here, we'll go ahead and get this started. Chief Key comes to us from the Wilson County Sheriff's Office. If you want to stand over here and face them, that way they can all see you. Yep.
I'm not gonna write you off, friend.
That's a good thing. Where he did receive the rank of lieutenant while he was assigned there to the patrol division as well as administration division. Chief Key brings 23 years of experience in law enforcement, beginning in Georgetown with the city of Georgetown. He also worked with the city of Live Oak, city of Alamo Heights before coming to Wilson County Sheriff's Office, where he has experience with tactical operations, administrative duties, and criminal investigations. So a lot of great experience. Not only is he a high school graduate from Floresville, he's stayed active in the community. He's worked numerous FISD events, from athletics to extracurriculars, and he's also served on our safety and security committee. So Mr. Key has been a part of it since I've been here. I've gotten to know him from the sheriff's office, and so very excited to have him and introduce him as our police chief. As with any law enforcement, we have to swear him in. So he is now going to work for Floresville ISD Police Department, which is a police department like any other police department across the state. So we've got to go through that process of swearing him in. So, Mr. Key, you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
You sure?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
If you could raise your right hand for me, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
I state your name.
I, Lyle Key,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of police chief
the duties of police chief
for Floresville Independent School
for
District,
Floresville Independent School District,
and will to the best of my ability
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of Texas,
and of Texas.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations. That's something I've never done before, sworn in a police officer.
Could you go a little to your, perfect. 1, 2. 1, 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Congratulations. Thank you. If you don't mind.
Congratulations, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Chief.
It's good reading.
Congratulations.
Chief Key, welcome.
Thank you.
Check it off for me.
Now we will have a public hearing for the proposed 2023-2024 budget. Ms. Engel will present this to us.
Good evening, Dr. Odom, Dr. Gilstrap, Board of Trustees, and our community. Tonight, we are going to fulfill our requirements and hold a public hearing for our 2023-2024 budget, proposed budget. Can everybody see? Am I in the way? Do I need to? Are we good? Okay.
Ms.
First of
Engel,
all-
just real quick, you want
Yes. If y'all would like to leave these
sorry.
exciting meetings, you're more than welcome to leave.
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry,
sir.
I did not announce that.
That way you don't have to slide.
I don't want to go out again.
Budget is very exciting.
All right. I thought they were just excited.
They were just excited about the police chief. So.
Bye, Lindsay.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank y'all.
Congratulations.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Shane, she gonna make you stay?
She's gonna make me stay. He tried. All right, Ms. Engel, I
Okay,
apologize. Thank
so
you.
first of all, we'll review our vision and mission for the statement. Our vision, character, knowledge, and confidence. And our mission, FISD is committed to the development of innovative, lifelong learners who possess character traits to achieve personal and professional success. Again, these are things we keep in mind when we are developing the budget and making sure to be fiscally responsible to accomplish them. Here's just a review of our goals that we have adopted and that the district, there we go, runs by. So goal 1, excellent student outcomes. Goal 2, superior workplace environment. Goal 3, exceptional customer service and community engagement. And goal 4, strategic resource management. So looking at the budget process, it's a continuous process throughout the year. But the first, I guess, real piece of information that we get from the outside to help us develop a budget are Wilson and Bexar County Appraisal District preliminary values. Those come in are due to the district statutorily by April 25th. We hold a board workshop, which we did a few weeks ago. We're required to publish public notice in the Wilson County News, since that is the only paper in this area, which we did a couple weeks ago as well. It's required to be 10 to 30 days prior to the hearing. We hold the public hearing, which is what we're doing tonight. We have final budget approval, which we will also do this evening, and then approval of a tax rate for 2023 tax year, which will happen on September 11th at that board meeting. So here's just a copy of the public notice that was published in the Wilson County News. Looking at our tax rate history from tax year 20 to tax year 2022, which is what just completed, you'll see there our tax rate over the year composed of the M&O and the INS rates. You'll see those changes over the years. So over the last 3 years, we've had a decrease of about 12.5 cents in our total tax rate. Factors influencing the budget process, we'll look at 2023-24 enrollment, which we're going to look at 4,000 students, which is what we had this year, we're keeping it flat. An ADA of 3606, that's maintaining a 92.5% attendance rate, which again is what we had this year, so we're just keeping all that flat and the same. Raises for all returning employees, average effective percentage rate raises by employee group. We're showing teachers there from 3.9 to 4.9%, auxiliary staff 4.2 to 5.8, para and clerical 4.4 to 6.5%, and admin professional from 3.4 to 4%. So if we look at our property values, the preliminary values were about $1.85 billion for the district. That's an 8.35% increase over the certified values from tax year 2022. We're budgeting at a tax collection rate of 98%. Compressed tax rate, total tax rate, again, this is what it was last year, $1.11-ish. Total tax rate, M&O at 85.5 cents and INS at 25.5 cents. So looking at the 23-24 budget, the actual funds that the board does approve are our general fund, our food service fund, and our debt service fund. So we're going to look at revenues, appropriations, or expenditures, proposed expenditures, debt obligations, and our tax rate history. So if we look at our general fund, we're looking at local revenue of just over $17 million, state revenue of just over $20 million, and federal revenue of $880,000. For a total general fund revenue, Fund 199, a little over $38 million. You can see the graphic there just showing what percentage, graphically there, the percentage of how it's funded, local versus state versus federal for the general fund. We look at appropriations here. We're looking at the our instructional functions at $21.3 million, instructional and support services at $5.6 million, administrative support services at $1.6 million, operations and support services a little over $9 million, debt service $208,000, and other operating costs is $633,000. So that's a total budget on the appropriation side, or proposed expenditures, of $38.6 million. If we look at the overview of that, we're looking at budgeted revenues there, budgeted expenditures. So we're looking at a change in fund balance at the end of the year, proposed at a deficit for just the year at $525,000. Now, if we look at fund balance status, we looked at this at our board budget workshop, but our current fund balance as of the last audited number, which was June 30th of last year, so a year ago, our undesignated fund balance is $11.2 million. TEA recommends a 3-month operating expenditure, so that's 9.3. So you can see there we have sufficient fund balance. We're sitting in a good place. Again, the district is prioritizing and committing to our staff. FISD has made a commitment to prioritize our staff through both financial means, a salary increase, and time, extra conference period for the teachers. We feel it's necessary to let our greatest investment, our employees, know that we appreciate them. As the Texas legislature continues to hold a $30+ billion in their charge and has failed to support the staff and students, FISD is being forced to dip into our reserve funds to meet our identified priorities and let our employees know how valued and appreciated they are to our students and our community. This is just looking at appropriations in the general fund by our object code. It's just another way we look at our fund at our budget. So we're approaching 80% there on payroll costs. That's the big bulk of our budget. Supplies and materials is just under 5%. Professional and contracted services 12.6%. Operating expenditures 3.4%. Capital outlay very small, and debt service 0.5%. Moving on to the food service fund, looking at local revenue there of $715,000, state revenue of $10,000, and federal revenue of $2.1 million. So we're looking at $2.86 million there. Again, you can see the breakdown there. There's mostly federal revenue coming in there, 25% local, and very, very small state. Looking at the food service appropriations, it's also $2.68 million there, so that is a balanced budget in that fund. Looking at our debt obligations for 23-24, this is what we're paying out for our bonds that we currently have outstanding for this year, for 23-20, or the upcoming fiscal year. For 23-24, we are just about $4.5 million worth of bond payments that we will make out of the debt service fund, which is $599, which we'll look at next. Look at the 10-year tax rate history. Again, just looking at it over 10 years instead of the 3 we looked at earlier. Over 10 years, we've dropped our total tax rate by a little over 38.5 cents. So looking at the debt service fund, again, that's mostly local revenue, so 4.3 coming in from taxes. That's that INS side of the tax rate. State revenue of $155,000 for $4.5 million, which will cover our payments for this year, our debt obligations. So again, mostly local revenue. 4.5, so that is a balanced budget as well on the debt service side. This is just looking at the combination of the 3 funds that the board does approve. So you're looking at a total there of just shy of $45.5 million for those 3 funds. Again, with the combined funds, total budget, that's a little over 46 million, excuse me. So that's the difference of the $525,000. So looking at 23-24 and beyond, where we're going from here, looking to budgets down the road, potential enrollment growth or decline. We've looked at kind of the slow growth. The demographers have given us some different options to look at there. Doesn't show huge growth. Property value growth as well on property tax legislation. You saw that the legislature went into session number 2 today at 11 o'clock. There's been some interesting stuff out of that that I just got an email on and have seen some few things this afternoon.
It didn't take long.
So,
It didn't take long.
No, it didn't take long. They do have a teacher supplement in there, but it's a constitutional amendment actually, because I was just looking at that. So they've got it in there, would have to be passed by voters, and it's nothing huge. It's $2,000 per teacher in an urban school district and $6,000 per teacher in a rural school district. The difference between those is not where they are, but size of the district, and it's 20,000 students. So, but again, that's on the Senate side. Now they've sent it over to the House. We'll see what happens. Other, again, the 88th legislative session, potential special sessions. We're in session 2. And then the end of our elementary and secondary school emergency relief or ESSER funding. We have ESSER 2 ending this coming September and ESSER 3 ending the following September. So looking at the timeline, July 25th, we will receive certified values from our local appraisal districts, Bear and Wilson. August 5th, TEA will provide our maximum compressed tax rate, that's on the M&O side. And September 11th, we will hold our tax rate hearing and adopt the tax rate for tax year 2023. Thank you to everyone. Are there any questions? This is a public hearing, so we take questions from anybody.
At this time, I would like to ask if we have any members of the public that have comments in regards to the public hearing.
One thing I would like to just say in the 23 and beyond, as we move forward, they are in special session. There's been much discussion, as you are probably aware, about public school finance, and that being held up by vouchers or educational savings accounts, and so there's a lot of political games going on with that. Very unfortunate for public education, because that's what's really holding up some of these things and making us make tough decisions at the local level to meet the priorities that we have in place. And so that is out there. But also, with that being said, there is also a lot of discussion during special sessions about compression of tax rates and property tax rates and M&O tax rates for school districts. And so a lot of those ways that we get revenue and potential increases in revenue remain to be seen. But obviously, we are at July 1, so we need a budget set in place, and we have the funds to be able to meet our needs. We're very fortunate in the way we've worked in the past to be able to have the opportunity to do that and utilize those funds in a way it's needed to be used. So we're in a good place with our budget. We feel confident in it. We feel good in it. We'll always analyze it. We met with some groups today, and obviously personnel is a major issue. And so we're always analyzing that. We are going to get a study done with TASB to analyze our compensation plan during this next year, and we always want to stay competitive across the board. So we can always amend the budget as well. So if the board would like to amend it later on, or if the legislature comes through, we can always amend the budget during the process. So just wanted to throw that out.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Dr. Gilstrap will now give the superintendent report as well as a contract employment update.
I gotta get over here to my board here. Okay. Skip ahead. Board members, included in the packet is superintendent report, and just briefly on a few things. The move to open up our new ECC is complete. We've got furniture moved over, as you can see from in here in the boardroom. These chairs are able to be stackable and moved out so that we can have board meetings and things like that. So that's the purpose of that. So you're going to see a lot of changes as we continue the process of opening this building. Just as a reminder, we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony for this building at 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, August the 1st. Tuesday, August the 1st at 9 a.m. And we'll be sending out multiple reminders to you about that as well. We will be contacting city and county officials to invite them. We're going to do this in conjunction with a resource fair that our Family Support Services staff is putting on. So it'll be an opportunity not just for our ECC kids, pre-K students to see the campus and their families, but also anybody in the district who is needing some school supplies, needing some resources as we get ready to kick off school. It'll be an opportunity to receive some of those services and get what you need. As we just got through talking about, the governor has called a new special session. He's also signing several bills into law that are going to affect public education. So we're reading through those along with Region 20 and other organizations, TEA, so that we can get a better understanding of it, some clarification on whatever rules that are out there and laws that are out there. We will be implementing those in a timely manner, as with anything else, especially those with security, because there were several bills regarding security at school that were passed. All board members, as well as the superintendent, are required to complete legislative update training. We will do this in the fall once Region 20 has got that training ready to go. We will try to get them here in district to do it, and we may try to invite a few other districts to come here as well so we can get that done all together. Again, the second special session has started today. There's still nothing on that agenda with public school finance, but it is having to do with tax compression and the property taxes. So Be on the lookout in the Wilson County News coming up in July. In late July, we will have a publication with a little bit of information and kind of a review of the 22-23 school year, and then some information about the 23-24. We're going to put that in the paper this year as an insert. I think we can really push that out. Obviously, as soon as it goes out in the newspaper, we'll also push it out through social media and emails and make it available on our website. But we're also going to, this year, we want to try to push it out to a few other folks by getting it in the newspaper. We've been working with Wilson County News to get that together and get it done. Our regular August meeting will include a superintendent formative evaluation, so we will have an executive session with that. We'll also be presenting the superintendent priorities. And so coming up in a weekly update, I'll be sending you our current ones, and then that way you can put together some thoughts as we go into our August meeting about superintendent priorities going into the next year. Included with the packet is also a list of new hires, which we will have an update on here in just a few minutes from Ms. Stonish. Also, we do not have a meeting in July, so just note to that. No meeting, no regular meeting in July. However, we do have several things prior to our next regular meeting in August, and many of those are listed below. We are having the Mission Baseball game, our admin board retreat on July the 26th, so please RSVP for that so we can get a head count. Also, we have new teacher orientation at the middle school on Monday, July the 31st. We'd like to invite the board, if you're able to come in, eat some breakfast, just stay for the introductions and kind of meet some of the staff. We obviously want to introduce you as board members, and then once we get rolling, get started, you're more than welcome to leave and go on about your day. We'd like to invite you to be there as part of that process. And then the next day on August the 1st, again, the Early Childhood Center ribbon cutting ceremony, and we'll have that morning prior to the resource fair getting started. Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Dr. Gilstrap. For our next report, Dr. Wade will present the DIP summative review.
Okay, good evening, President Odom, Dr. Gilstrap, Board of Trustees. Tonight I'll provide you a short summary, the shortest one you've had all year, of the district improvement plan for 22-23. As you've already heard tonight, the district has 4 goals in our district improvement plan. During each quarter, I provided you with a formative review in accomplishing these goals, and the district and campus leadership team has evaluated our progress this past June and completed a summative review for each of those performances. In your board packet, you do have the complete district improvement plan summative review with all of the performance objectives and strategies listed there. For 22-23, the FISD district improvement plan had a total of 4 goals and 14 performance objectives. Of those 14 objectives, the district met 71% of them and had significant progress on 4 others. Those 4 others were related to student outcomes and exceptional customer service and community engagement. In the final quarter of our review, we look at strategies as well. And of the 59 strategies that we had, which is down from a high of 70-something, we had 50 of them that were accomplished, 7 that will be continued or modified, and 2 that will be discontinued. Some of the strategies that we will continue next year include monitoring discipline for special education, updating our response to intervention or multi-tier systems of support plan, and providing an update to our GT gifted and talented plan. The 2 strategies that we will discontinue are the restorative practices, because we're going to focus on capturing kids' hearts implementation across the district, and the hope and engagement survey that we no longer give to students. So, next steps that the board can anticipate seeing in January, we begin the process of a comprehensive needs assessment looking ahead for this next school year of 23-24. We developed a draft district improvement plan beginning in April. We shared that draft with our District Education Improvement Committee in May, and then revised that in June, and when we get student achievement results, we may revise it again. I thought it would be July, but it's not going to be till August. So thank you, TEA. And then we will submit to the board August the 1st a recommendation for approval of that 23-24 district improvement plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Dr. Wade, what did we discontinue again?
We discontinued, we had restorative practices separated for our support for social emotional support for students. And the high school is going to begin implementing Capturing Kids' Hearts in a pilot basis. I guess that's what I'll say. So in the past, at the beginning of the year, we separated teachers into trainings. This year, all the teachers will go through Capturing Kids' Hearts training, the new teachers.
We've been utilizing that program at the elementary, obviously North, their national showcase school, but at the high school, it's a little bit different just with older students and different staff, but it's still effective, so we're going to implement that.
One for the other.
Correct. We
And
don't
so
want to
then-
have two of them.
And sorry, so the other one we discontinued was administrative, the Hope and Engagement Survey?
Yes, sir.
Explain that a little bit.
So there's a survey that we have traditionally given to students, but we did not give it last year either.
We did not.
We did.
last year.
Yeah, we kept thinking that's something we're going to continue to do, but it just is not a priority. We have Capturing Kids' Hearts to provide some of that support, and we're getting input from students in other ways
Okay.
besides that survey. I mean, Dr. Gilstrap meets personally with students, so
Okay.
there's other ways to gather input instead of just that survey.
Thank you. And I think that program was, what was that cost in the budget? I think
6,000? I don't know. I'm trying to remember how much.
More than that.
Yeah,
I wanna
it's
say
a
it was
little
closer to
expensive.
10, and then
Yeah.
we were also purchasing all the shirts.
Shirts.
Right, yeah.
Another $20,000, so it's a little more costly. Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Wade? Mr. Schroeder will now go over our student transfers and student participation.
Good evening, board. Got 8 slides. My goal is 8 minutes.
You're on the clock.
I'm on the clock. All right, tonight's report will begin with a comparison of our district student body unexcused attendance percentages compared to our out-of-district student body known as our inter-district student transfers. We'll then take a quick look at student participation numbers in extracurricular activities and in FFA, followed by a breakdown of the different types of transfers, inter-district versus intra-district. And then I will wrap up with some data showing you how our transfers are doing academically and behaviorally. So I think it's important that I share with you what is an unexcused absence versus an excused absence. And this is just a breakdown here, but an example of unexcused absence would be a student's alarm clock not going off, or the family taking a family trip during the school week to Disneyland. Or a student simply shows late to class and doesn't have a reason or a note when talking from the parent and talking to the attendance clerk. An example of an excused absence would be armed services enlistment, participation in a UIL event, getting their driver's license, attending a higher education visit, etc. Why is this slide important? Because it shows that our transfer students on average are outperforming their peers when it comes to accruing less unexcused absences. That's district-wide, every campus. This helps us by minimizing the need to submit referrals to truancy court, helps us close the attendance gap, which helps us with ADA, and there's a lot of truth and validity in being at school more often should help us increase and improve our student achievement scores.
So through time, Mr. Schroeder, are you able to show any correlation? Those in elementary tend to follow up into the middle school and high school and have the same issues?
I have not, but I would probably tend to agree more that what you're saying, there's a direct correlation.
So I will say that since I've come on board, this is one of the things that I've always done in the past, and really been interested in it. So I don't know, we can't make those comparisons yet. It's only been a couple of years.
Sure.
Since we've really dug into this. Could we go back and pull it? We probably could. It'd take us some time to do it.
Okay.
Probably.
It's a good question. Did I miss one? There we go. In regards to participation extracurricular, and viewing the slides, you can see both the middle school and the high school have a large percentage of student involvement in band, cheer, ROTC, and athletics. And we have, if you look at the far right, a pretty good percentage of our transfers also participating in extracurricular activities. My apology, I don't have participation numbers for dance. Probably anywhere 17 to 20 students. That could be easy to pull.
Which is up from about 8.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have seen improvement in that. Please know that at the bottom there, band includes symphonic. I put dance, but that is inaccurate. It does include, Rhonda, help me, percussion, woodwind, symphonic, brass, and so forth. But it does, and color guard, but it does not include dance.
So with those numbers, if you add those numbers up, the total, that's over 900. So of the 1,200 in high school, 900 are participating in something.
That would be.
900 are participating in those 4.
Correct, yes, sir.
There's
Yes, sir.
There's other
Right,
plans, but
okay.
these are what, yes.
Okay.
And that's what we want as a district,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah,
want
sure.
to showcase our kids and give them opportunities
Mike,
and so, yes, ma'am.
so you don't have any in the literary UIL, like contest or journalism or?
We have it, but I don't have that data, no ma'am. But we have a pretty good, strong
It'd be
UIL
nice to have
academic.
it, acknowledge them.
Yes, ma'am.
also.
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
In regards to FFA, as you can see on this slide, the POS stands for Program of Study, but we do offer several programs of study for our ag students. This past school year, we had 492 high school students who are FFA members. That's outstanding, and that's accurate. I would like to point out that a member of FFA must take an ag course. And so this is currently what we offer. We're always looking to increase this. We do have some students who are in ag, but they, for whatever reason, they don't want to show. And we will try to help them if there's fees and stuff that, just family hardship and so forth. But this is me talking to high school counseling. This is me talking to Mr. Drzambik, because what I want to present is accurate information. And so that is good numbers right there. I think the dues they pay, Mr. Mooch, you may know the exact, I think it's right around $15 to $20, but I don't know for sure, but it's right there.
So
Yes, sir,
Mr.
Mr.
Schroeder,
Soda.
we got 492 members, and I know we have a strong ag program. How many of those are transfers? Do we have the numbers on that?
I don't have the numbers on
Okay,
that.
I was just wondering how that,
Yes, sir.
how that falls.
Yes, sir.
All right.
This is an interesting slide, if you want to look at this. But let me give you a simple understanding of the difference between an inter-district transfer and an intra-district transfer. Inter-district means basically the students coming to FISD, they are not currently residing in FISD boundary. Intra-district basically means a parent of an FISD student may request their child to go to a different elementary due to special circumstances. It's a request, it's got to be approved. So what are those examples of these special circumstances? The parent teaches at the other elementary. The sibling of a life skills student at a campus moved into other elementary boundary but chose to stay with classmates and the principals agreed. But equally important, the campus and grade level had room. We weren't at capacity, that grade level had room, so forth. And a possible in regards to the dual language program, the 4th and 5th grade. So those are special circumstances. We do review those with campus administration to make sure that they are okay and approve that. To the right of this screen is a list of the school districts that show where our total of 68, all of our campuses from elementary, middle school to high school, where these inter-district transfers came from. East Central is leading with 22, followed by Lavernia, Southside, and the list goes down. 38 of these 102 transfer students are children of FISD employees. Please know that these students are made up of both inter-district and intra-district. So how are they doing academically? In regards to grade point average, GPA is only calculated for our high school students. In this case, what I'm showing here tonight, this slide shows how our 23 high school inter-district transfer students are doing academically. I want to point out 16 of the 23 high school transfer students, interdistrict transfer students, are on pace to all A honor roll and to graduate with honors. With that said, here none of our students are C students, and so for the most part, they're doing pretty good academically. Discipline, and that's another thing we review with our administration and so forth. And we have revoked some for DAP placements, not this past year, but prior and so forth. So there's an application that they have to fill out. We have to look at the data from the school they're coming from, and so we have a criteria for them. We just don't accept anybody and everybody. They need to represent our school well. With that said, bulleted in this slide are the student code of conduct violations that were reported by campus administration regarding our transfer students for the past, for the 22-23 school year. Out of FISD's 68 interdistrict transfers, there were a total of 18 discipline referrals. This is what was put on the referral. With that said, none of these 18 discipline referrals were severe or persistent enough to recommend student placement in DAEP, nor were these violations serious enough to withdraw them from the district.
Is that larger than the prior years or down from prior years?
I don't know.
We're starting to track these numbers.
Yes, this is relatively new.
You knew that question was coming, didn't you?
Yes, that's a good question.
Since I did my dissertation on this, it kind of interests me.
Yeah, but this is, I'm glad you're asking this because it's good for us as a district to know and so forth. It does take, we have to input all these kids one by one, so there's a lot of time into it, but we take a lot of pride in our student body and in our district, so we will answer those questions you have. So just an overview I shared with you in regards to attendance. Our transfer students had a lower percentage of unexcused absences than the non-transfer students. High number at middle school and high school in regarding student body participation. Majority of our transfer students are participating in extracurricular activities. Very strong FFA program, like I said, with 492 members. Academics, 16 of the 23 high schools transfers are on track to graduate with honors. And we did not have to revoke one of our transfers this year, and we had none that were sent or even considered for placement at our alternative campus. Any questions?
I think more than a question than a comment is, having these transfers in, these numbers are really awesome.
Yes, sir.
To have these kids and what they're doing. But I think taking a step further, it's also, a lot of them are coming to school with their moms and dads that are working for the district, and that's the kind of people we have working for the district.
Right.
And those kids are
38
following those footprints. So I think these numbers say that the district is working well with the kids, and we have,
That's correct. And it's zero tuition. They're coming here, but we have a pretty, stern's not the word, but a criteria. Again,
Right.
A lot of unexcused absences, a lot of discipline problems at the former school district, different things like that. We also look at STAR scores, EOC scores. So we're not just bringing anybody and everybody into the district.
Mike, does that
Yes,
include
sir.
our foreign exchange students?
No, that's a different,
They're
they're
not
considered
required.
foreign exchange, yes.
They're required to fill out a transfer booklet, not just performance.
Yeah, it's pretty intense for those. Yes, sir.
Well, I think it's a great confirmation that they're coming here because we got great teachers, great facilities, so that's good.
And we're finding a lot of them not wanting to leave, and they're coming and getting a good education.
Great.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Mr. Schroller. For our last report, Mrs. Stonish will give a personnel update.
Good evening, board. So this evening, I'm going to give a personnel update, what we've been working on for the past couple of months and really all school year, and some comparative data to last year. So we'll look at the historical retention rates and some former employee data, as well as our new hire information and current vacancies, which are changing by the minute, so I'll let you know about that. Historical retention rates. I looked back as far as the TAPER reports, which are the same reports that Dr. Wade presents with our STAR scores, all the way back to 2012, 2013. And so you can see where FISD compares to the state of Texas. So pretty consistently since 1819, FISD has been below the state average for turnovers. And even when you see that big increase in our resignations after the COVID year of 55, we were still below the state average. So we're right about at 37 resignations and retirements right now. That could change. But our average over the past 10 years is about 36. So we're pretty much on track to have a normal-ish year as opposed to last year. Oops. Okay, so looking at our those 37 teachers that resigned or retired, you can see the reasons that they retired or left the district. About half and half went to another Texas district and retired. That number 7, taking a job outside of the teaching profession of 7, that is, in my opinion, a higher number than we've seen in the past. And that's the number that research or is telling us it's going to grow about teachers leaving the profession.
In that one on the top one, do we know top 3 reasons why they're going somewhere else?
Money. Pay and location. Pay and location.
Pay and location.
We even ask them for their exact school district they're going to, and so that's how what I look at. And we had one teacher live who's at Schertz Civil Oak, lives right there, finally got a job there. So usually it's pay with location. They won't leave for just one or the other. It's a combination of the two. But we find that information out in our exit interviews.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions on the former employee data?
Do you do the exit interview with the retirement people?
Yes,
Oh,
we
okay,
have them
that's what
fill
I
out the
was
same
in.
paperwork. If they're satisfied with the district, our thoughts, things we can change. So we're always looking for feedback. Okay, so just a little data. It's not that positive, but according to the National Center for Educational Statistics, the median length of time a teacher stays in the profession is 10 years. In addition to the median tenure, the American Association of Colleges for Teacher Education found that 10% of teachers who enter the profession leave after 1 year, 25% leave after 3 years, and another 25% leave after 5 years. So that's 3 out of 5 teachers leaving within their first 5 years of the education profession.
That right there is very alarming, and not just because of the number of people that is leaving, but that means we're having to retrain and invest in new teachers and new staff. It's one thing to, it's one thing to bring in an experienced teacher and bring them up to speed on FISD and how we do it in Floresville. It's a whole nother venture to take someone who is new to the profession and get them up to speed on not just how we do it, but just the entire concept of public education. So that's an alarming number.
That's not just Texas data.
Correct, that's nationwide.
That's national, and it's not, and that's what we just keep hearing about over and over. And every, I'm sure at the board's conference, at every HR conference I hear about is that's this teacher shortage.
I guess because I retired in '09, and we didn't have near this many younger ones leaving. So it is very, very alarming.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. So on that note, it's on to recruiting. So one part of human resources is the recruiting, along with employee relations and HR. We wear a lot of hats, but one of our major things is recruiting. So how do we do that? So we post it everywhere. We have it everywhere. The district website, Tassanet, which is geared towards, it's kind of the go-to place for educators to look for a position if they're willing to look outside to another district. It's statewide. The Region 20 website, as well as the typical search engines, Indeed, Monster. We post mainly jobs. We post all of our jobs, but we get the most hits from like our auxiliary positions or positions that are not the normal teaching. Teachers really don't look at those search engines because they know they can go to a district website or they can go to Tassanet to look for jobs within the state. And of course, social media. Social media is at every job fair that I go to when you talk to the young college kids, that's where they find their jobs. That's where they find everything. Social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Ms. Martinez is amazing at creating these beautiful graphics that we can just then post everywhere and anywhere all the time. So everybody knows that Floresville is hiring and what a great place it is to work at. Also, there's specialty websites, like if we were looking for a social worker, there's geared websites towards specific fields that we'll post as well.
There's also organizational websites. So if we were looking for a band teacher, there are band associations. If we're looking for coaches, there's coaches associations.
There's an HR website
there's an
that
ag
posts HR jobs.
teachers association. So some of those specialty areas have associations that we work with.
Okay, so another way we recruit is through alternative teaching programs. Just a couple of them, there are always new ones coming along. Texas Teachers, Teach Worthy, A+ teachers, and of course the Alamo colleges and the universities around the area. Teach Worthy actually trains their teachers with capturing kids' hearts, which is a district initiative. So they're the ones that came and hosted a session. I don't know if you saw it advertised in our seminar room. We had about 40 attendees. We advertised it in the Wilson County News. If you want to be a teacher, come, hear this session. And we've actually made 2 for sure, almost 3 hires from that session of people that have been enrolling in an alternative certification, which you just have to have a bachelor's degree, and then becoming our teachers. So
it's almost 10%. That's a pretty good hiring ratio for you.
Yes, so we really love our partnership with them. They send us weekly list of, and usually they're big spreadsheets sorted by zip code, so that when we start calling, we know we're not going to call somebody that lives really, really far away. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll get to them, but we're going to start with people that live closest and work our way out. So we stay in contact with them. We are on a first name basis. And job fairs. We participate in all kinds of job fairs. Region 20, SAPA, which is a professional organization that I belong to. And although in the past, say, 2 to 4 years, job fairs don't have the crowds that they used to because the young kids are going online to the social media to find their positions, we make a lot of contacts. They hear the name Floresville ISD and they become familiar with where it is, and we're just advertising. We're trying to get the message out to come to Floresville. So maybe they don't join us that year, but maybe they will in a couple of years. As well as college and university recruiting. All the local colleges in the San Antonio area, even Texas State, A&M Corpus. We work a lot with their education departments for them to know our openings and for us to know what they're looking for, and their job fairs. We host a lot of, we're always trying to get more student teachers. We host anywhere between 2 to 6 student teachers per semester in the district and a variety of campuses, and we're always trying to grab them right away. This gives us a chance to check them out a little and then try to recruit them for our to be teachers. Any questions on recruiting?
How would you get more student teachers? I mean, from the local colleges, is there a trick to it, or?
Well, usually the student teacher tells their campus advisor where they want to, if they could have no clue, and they could say, put me anywhere you want, and then that would be where if I have a contact at A&M San Antonio, I tell her, hey, send us as many student teachers as you can. But usually the student requests a district. And so that's another part of that advertising. So if we put our name out there, people know that we're looking, people know that the benefits that we offer, then we can attract more student teachers as well.
The other thing I'd say is more and more teachers that we're hiring are through alternative programs. And so they're not doing traditional student teaching.
Okay.
So,
The university
yeah.
pipeline has, and even the past year before COVID, has just really dwindled. It's also alarming to see the amount of students that are choosing education as their degree, as their major. So 20 years ago, I went through an alternative certification program as well. So, and I remember being told at that time when I went on an interview, elementary teachers are a dime a dozen. So that was not very nice, but that is not true anymore. So we want all those elementary teachers.
We had that conversation just the other day.
Yes. So, and stipends. We offer, as you'll see in the compensation manual, over 115 competitive stipends to our employees. And that is just a link to that at the end of your compensation plan, where all of our stipends are listed. But that's another recruiting tool. Entice teachers to come here. Okay, so new teachers, new hire information. Summer 2023, hire teachers so far, 32. But it's changed. It's 34 as of just a couple of hours ago. Thanks to Dr. Farnsworth in the high school. So if you'll look to the, yes, ring the bell. So Dr. Farnsworth and his team, they hired an ELAR teacher, so it used to say 2, I changed it to 1. But the social studies coaches, now it's just 1, that's hot off the press, like in the last hour. So so we got 2 more hires today. However, the resignation deadline for teachers with contracts is not upon us yet. So legally, teachers have 45 days before the first day of instruction to resign their contract penalty free. So they have a contract, so you can't break that contract. So that day for us is July 3rd. So I remember as a campus principal being on vacation, standing on a rock, trying to get cell phone service because I was trying to get this teacher in before the resignation deadline. We hope that we don't have any more teachers resign after this date, but we could have some try to resign after this date. It is just a little more difficult for teachers depending on the circumstances, and then the district actually has to approve, or the school board has to approve their resignation. We don't just accept it. We accept them all the way to the 3rd.
You know, whenever we were working on the numbers for this, there were a couple of things I'm like, well, hold on, we got more than this over here. It's not quite adding up. We've actually had some teachers that we hired for next school year that we hired back in April, and then they came through in June and resigned. So therefore, they counted as a new hire, and they also counted as a resignation.
3 last week. 3 last week, right, Dr. Farnsworth?
Yeah.
So,
Great week.
Yeah, that was not a good week at HR and high school roles.
So, yeah, we cross our fingers until that deadline, which varies from district to district because it depends on when your first day of instruction is. So for one district, it may have already passed, and for another district, it may be after the 3rd. So.
Wow.
Any questions on that personnel update? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number 5, action items. First action item is the consent agenda.
Board members, typical consent agenda consists of minutes from prior meetings, including our workshop. Also, you'll see no financials in here because those have already been approved at our regular meeting in June. But you do see a donation from the Athletic Booster Club in the amount of $3,500. That was for tennis windscreen. If you've seen the tennis windscreen, it's got the nice graphic design on it for Floresville Tiger Jaguar tennis. And so they were making a donation to fund that. So since it is over $1,000, it does require board action, so we include it on the consent agenda. So if there are no questions, the administration recommends the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make the motion to accept the recommendation of the administration.
I second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, let me know by raising your hand. 6-0. Next action item is to consider approval of final budget amendment for 2022-2023, presented by Ms. Engel.
Again, board and Dr. Odom, Dr. Gilstrap, I come to you this evening with the third budget amendment for the school year. We did one in January, we did one back at the beginning of June. This is the last one. This one does have a revenue piece and an expenditure piece. You can see there an adjustment to current and prior year tax collections of $1.6 million. In addition, TRS on behalf and FSP, which is Foundation School Program, from the state payments of a reduction of a little over $1 million. So a net increase there of revenue of $665,000. Great news if you, I'm sorry? Yes, sorry, yes. If you look at the bottom half of that, that's the expenditures there, moving some things between some functions, because that's the way you guys approve the budget. You'll see the net expenditure increase of $365,000. Good news there, the difference is $300,000. That is what you guys approved in January to commit out of fund balance for a few things. We're not gonna have to do that. So this is putting that money back there and making the budget a balanced budget for this last year. So awesome that we were able to purchase those things, but again, equally as awesome that we were able to take those back in and be balanced there, not have to use any fund balance for this school year. The second page is looking at Fund 240. That was Fund 199 General Fund. Second page is looking at Fund 240, which is the child nutrition or food service, increasing our revenue there on student meals by $300,000 and equally increasing the expenditures there for contracted services and utilities by the $300,000. So that is a balanced budget amendment. Again, the other one, increasing the revenue and increasing the expenditures to offset that $300,000. So, any questions?
Again, this budget will be audited in the fall, and so thank you, Ms. Engel, for all your hard work throughout the year to get this budget correct.
Yes, sir. So if there are no questions, administration recommends the board approve the FISD 2022-2023 final budget amendment as presented.
We have a
Mr.
motion.
President, I move to accept the administration's
Mr.
recommendation.
Rhoda makes a motion, and Ms. Schwabach seconds. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, let me know by raising your hand. Okay, 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and you're also next.
I am.
As well. Next action item is to consider approval of the 2023-2024 budget and compensation plan. And you're presenting that, and is Ms. Stanish also going to help out? Okay.
Combination two.
All right.
Okay, so you should have a big sheet of paper like this. It has the budget by function to approve. It's the biggest paper we can find, and so that way everybody can see it, and it's all there on one page, so you don't have to flip back and forth. So you can see there, it's divided out between Fund 199, Fund 240, which is food service, and then Fund 599 debt service, and a total at the end there. You can see the 2022-2023 budget as amended without this amendment. And then the proposed 23-24 budget, the difference there. Again, the 23-24 general fund budget, if you take the revenues minus the expenditures, will be upside down $525,000 like we've discussed. The other two funds are balanced. Any questions on that?
This will be posted online, correct? This entire-
Yes, I've got it. I got an email ready to send Blanca as soon as it's approved. Okay.
No questions?
Great
Okay,
presentation.
compensation.
Yeah, read that now, that's great. Okay. So in your board packet as well as a hard copy, you have the employee compensation plan. And the employee compensation plan sets out the compensation for staff for the 23-24 school year. All of the yellow highlighting would be an update or a change. And all of those updates and changes were presented at the budget workshop. Were there any questions on the employee compensation plan?
It does include 3.5% midpoint, as well as adjustments to paraprofessional pay grade.
Yes, and some of those spot adjustments as well are highlighted.
We, again, we always want to make sure we're prioritizing our staff, and we'll continue to do that. So we'll continue to evaluate, and if we need to come back for a recommended amendment to make an adjustment to some other pay grade, we potentially may do that as we continue to evaluate, put everything we can into our staff.
One question, do we have an aid do we have any deaf students that they have an aid, or we just, in case they show up, we have to do it?
We do have a paraprofessional that was at the elementary, at North Elementary, and rolled up this year. The first year there, the student is at middle school.
Oh,
So
okay,
there is a
they
para
got-
that's,
Does this particularly generally follow the student?
yes.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, all ready for the motion? So administration recommends the board approve the 2023-2024 budget and compensation plan as presented.
Motion.
I'll move to accept the administration's recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Moons makes the motion, and Mr. Clear seconds it. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, let me know by raising your hand. 6-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next action item is to consider approval of an innovative course presented by Dr. Wade.
Good evening again, Board. The district offers courses that are approved by the State Board of Education for the required curriculum. However, the Texas Education Agency has provided a way for us to offer innovative courses to enable students to master skills for the required curriculum and provide a state elective credit. Floresville High School has identified an innovative course that's already been approved by the Texas Education Agency to provide options for students with no impact to the budget. Requested by the teacher at the high school, the Actors Movement Innovative course is recommended to replace musical theater, which would better meet the instructional needs for that particular content. The course application and the details for the course from the Texas Education Agency are included in your board packet. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about that.
So it's just replacing
Yes.
the course.
Apparently, we don't have a whole lot of people signing up for musical theater.
Yeah.
Not real fond of the singing.
Any questions? If not, administration recommends the board approve the offering of Actors Movement as an approved innovative course beginning with the 2023-24 school year.
For a motion to accept that.
Oh, I second.
I move to accept
No, why not?
administration's
Okay,
recommendation.
Mr. Clear moves to accept the recommendation.
Mr. Clear is accepted.
Ms. Reed seconds it, all right. Any further questions or discussion? There are none. Let me know, if you're in favor of it, raise your hand. Anyone opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next action item is consider approval of the optional flexible school day program application presented by Mr. Reeves.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Odom, Dr. Gilstrap. During the June 5th board meeting, I presented details about our flexible school day program. This program is being created to give high school students the opportunity to regain or capture credit, satisfy academic requirements for graduation, and increase attendance based on the student's unique circumstances and diverse needs. It will allow FISD to provide flexible hours and days of attendance to students who are at risk. TEA has made an application for this optional flexible school day program, available to eligible school districts that must be completed annually and submitted to the TEA for approval. Are there any questions about the optional school day program? Then administration recommends the board approve the optional flexible school day program application as presented.
Motion to approve.
I move to accept administration's recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Moots
I'll
makes the
second
motion. And Mr. Schroeder seconds it. Any further questions or discussion? All right, all in favor, let me know by raising your hand. Opposed, motion carries 6-0. All right, thank you, Ms. Reyes. Now we will consider acceptance of the Long Range Planning Committee recommendation presented by Dr. Gilstrap.
Yes, thank you, sir. So board members, mine's a little longer than 8 slides, may take a little more than 8 minutes. Let's see if I can beat Mr. Stroll. Now, we completed our facilities planning committee, our long range planning committee. This has been a part of our process. If you recall, the board adopted 4 new goals, and one of those goals was to strategic resource management. And amongst that would be 4.2, systematic facilities management and planning for growth. So that's really what's prompted this entire discussion, was the board's moving forward with that goal number 4 and specifically planning for that growth. So that prompted this committee to begin getting together and kind of see where we were in the past and where we potentially may be going in the future, ultimately coming up with a recommendation here. So that does lead us to the purpose of the committee. I made it very clear to that committee that they were not a bond committee. They were not getting together to determine or vote on or recommend anything like that. But the committee was developed to assist the district in proactively planning for growth in its facilities for the purpose of advising the Board of Trustees. And so that's really what their focus was, not to make major steps, but to really assist the board in identifying needs and potential solutions for those needs. And so that's what this presentation is this evening. First of all, we had 40 total members of the committee. We had 18 community members as well as parents. We actually had 2 students that participated in the process. We had 17 staff members, including teachers and administrators. And then we had 3 school board members that were a part of that process. Overall, they did meet, this thing is like really touchy. They did meet on 4 occasions, and we really want to recognize those people that were a part of that committee. They put in many hours and had some tough conversations. They really did. They came up with some great ideas, some good, some bad, some way out of the box, some that really prompted other discussions. And they really did a great job of listening to each other. And they came from all different parts. They came with different ideas, different priorities, different thought processes. And so I really want to thank those members of that committee. So if you see those, I'll be glad to get you a list of those committee members so that you can thank them, maybe write them a note if you want to, because it was not an easy discussion or a process, and it took quite a bit of time. So just to kind of review over the planning process, we talked about the reason, the why are we here, why are we meeting? That was their first question they wanted to ask. And then they went into the reality of it. You know, where are we now? And we looked at facilities, we looked at current facilities, we looked at some of those needs. And then they got into what are our needs? And that was when the in-depth conversations really began to happen. And then they talked about the right way, where should we go, and then ultimately what are our next action steps, which is what they're recommending this evening. So that was just a little bit about the planning process. So these are some of the information provided to the committee, some at their request, and some of it we provided for them. We just knew they were going to need or want that information. First of all, our bond history and our bond capacity. Obviously, bond elections did come up because we're talking to people. The first thing they think of is facilities, but we had to get over that. And let's talk more about the details of it. So, but we did provide them with our bond history and capacity information, as well as our financial condition, fund balance. We shared that information with them, our audited fund balance. And then our facilities renovations, our current acreage that we own. One of the individuals asked at the meeting, can we get a list of all the land that the district has so we can think about potential options and things like that? So we actually gathered all that and gave it to them. We took a virtual field trip through a couple of different campuses around the state, some new products, some new builds. We also took our own campus tour. We were able to walk through the middle school, see some of those classrooms and facilities. Then we went over to South Elementary. They looked at the cafeteria space, the restroom space, as well as some hallways and cafeteria, or hallways and classrooms there as well. And then wound up at the high school, walking through some CTE facilities so they could get an idea of that. Some of those people, they'd never been in those buildings. They'd never been to the middle school. They'd never been in the South Elementary. And so walking in there kind of opened their eyes. Overall, not only the committee, but the others that we invited to be a part of this process that really do this for a living, facilities are not in bad shape. Some districts are doing this process because their facilities are dilapidated, they're falling down, they're getting old. We're taking care of our facilities, and it shows. It's just coming down to a capacity issue is really what they came down to. We also looked at our demographic trends, which I'll kind of show you a slide on that in just a second, and then also our capacity of facilities. That was something that they were very interested in. So our demographic studies, as we look to the future, we did have this done back in the spring. And we took their middle of the road estimates. They gave us a high and a low, as well as a recommended growth pattern. And we do have a lot of buildings going on. We have a lot of homes that are going up, rooftops that are going up. But this demographer who does this across the state, they are coming back with, as you can see, from 2023 to 2032, so that's a 10-year span. They're predicting us to be at about 4,400 students, 4,469. So they're recommending about a 1 to 2% growth per year. And again, that's spread out over 12 grade levels. That's not like we're going to have that much growth in one grade level or at one campus. But some people look around and say it's got to be more. It's got to be more. It may potentially be. Nobody can predict the future. But this is what based on their conservative numbers, because what they don't want to do is go out and say the sky's falling, we got to do something right now, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. But we also need to open our eyes and see that growth is coming. So if we were to have an influx of 400 students right now to our district, it would really have to depend on where they are and how they're spread out as to whether or not we can hold those students. So something we need to keep in mind and think about. So we did look at facilities capacities. First of all, north and south, we have the ages of those buildings as well. South Elementary being the oldest. Whenever I first pulled this up, we were looking at square footage. North Elementary is 7,000 square feet bigger than South, but yet they have 7 more classrooms at South. Whenever we started talking about it, really looking at it, North Elementary is built with a lot wider hallways. The cafeteria and gym spaces are a lot bigger. The front office space is bigger, and so that's where that extra 7,000 square feet comes from. Because at first glance it wasn't adding up and making sense, but as you walk the facilities, you can tell one's built in 96 and one's built in 09, just with construction and the way schools are designed. But you can see those capacities there, and then we also put in our current enrollment. That was, I can't remember if that was snapshot day or one day prior during this school year. We're over capacity by 2 students at South. We're nearing capacity at North. And then obviously middle school and high school, we have some room for growth, but we know it's coming. So the next thing they had to do was come up with what were the biggest needs that we had as a district. And this is what they selected and they came up with in the rank order that they felt was most important. First of all was overcrowding in schools and in classrooms. They see that as being the biggest need. Currently, we already have portables at South. We actually walked through those. We also got capacity issues at North, and middle school we got a little bit of room, but high school we have some specific programs that are already overcrowded, whether it be our CTE programs, ag classes, and things like that. The second one was learning spaces that align with forecasted future. Whenever they talked about that, it's not just forecasted growth, but it's also forecasted future of needs. What's coming in the future as far as, for example, CTE programs that we currently don't already have that may be a need coming up, whether it's some additional engineering space for engineering classes. Those require a lab. You can't just teach that in a regular classroom. So it's not just student growth, but it's forecasted future across the board. Design and configuration of current campuses, that was number 3. Just one of the options that they came up with, or one of the things they talked about, was grade levels. We're already moving and opening up this campus as an early childhood for pre-K. That's really a big change in getting some of those people off and freeing up some space in north and south. So that was an example of what they came up with, but just really feeling like that may be a need. Maintenance and capital replacement, they see us as taking care of our facilities, but we also need to make sure we keep in mind that the need to keep that up and to make sure that we are putting that into our budget, we're allotting for that, and potentially knowing that, as we know, we've invested quite a bit of money in HVAC units at 2 campuses this year. Those were some big ticket items, and that's not something you just routinely put into an annual budget. And sometimes we have opportunities for whether it's transportation issues, we got parking lot issues there. We know we're going to have central office space that we potentially, if pre-K continues to grow, we're going to have some issues there. Where do we move central office? So they're just talking about those type of replacement things. And then the last one was outdated, undersized common areas and facilities. This specifically, they didn't know how to word it, so we worded it this way, but this is common areas like gyms, cafeteria space at South Elementary specifically, at middle school cafeteria space, and also for our community, the auditorium and its capacity. And so they felt like those were some pretty common areas that are either outdated or undersized. So they saw that as being as well. Next is some methodology, if I can get it to stop there. Methodology on how they came up with the ranking of those. As you can see, the overcrowded schools and classrooms was definitely number 1. Also included in the survey, because we put out to, and I should go back to, we had 148 responses to a community survey that we did during the month of May as well. And so part of that survey also, we asked these questions. So wanted to kind of throw this out as a little side note. 59% agree or strongly agree that our facilities are well maintained and increase the value of the community. So I feel like we are doing a good job of that. 73% agree or strongly agree with our facilities are safe and secure. That one was kind of a breath of fresh air. Our community is recognizing that we are doing things to make sure we're providing a safe and secure learning environment. 63% agree or strongly agree that our facilities enable us to prepare students for the future. So as we were walking around, we're utilizing the space we have to prepare our students. And so they felt like that was a good thing to do. And then lastly, 29% agreed or strongly agreed that the district is prepared for projected growth. So a low percentage think that we're ready for the growth that people see it coming. And so the numbers show that the community, obviously if they didn't agree or disagree, didn't agree and strongly agree, they had disagreed or strongly disagreed. So they see that need is coming. Just kind of a side note, wanted to put that information out there. So this is kind of an example of their thought process that each group was challenged to come up with. So we divided the participants into 5 different groups. One of the needs was assigned to each group. They took a chart paper. This is something that they do an awesome job with, the facilitators did. They put their need in the middle, and they were coming up with 8 different solutions that they could solve that problem. And some of those, again, we're going to be X'd out real quick. But some of them sparked and spawned some more discussions and more ideas. And so it was really interesting to really force them to come up with maybe not the most obvious thing, but let's think outside the box. And so based on those 8, they would come together as the big group, and then they were able to narrow that down to some possible recommendations to address that one problem that they were focused on, or one need that they were focused on. So we were able to come up with a recommendation. So the committee, with a thumbs up, all committee members present at that last meeting were able to affirm that this was the recommendation they felt needed to go to the board through the superintendent. So that recommendation is, 1, to address the overcrowding at the elementary campuses in a timely manner. That would be moving pretty quick in the next 1 to 3 years. And we're already taking steps to do that by opening this campus. Another idea that was floated was potentially redrawing boundary lines between north and south to kind of equal some of that growth that's happening. I think some of the growth was kind of unexpected in town, in the South Elementary zone, with the golf course developing and some of the others. Haven't seen that growth out there in the northern part of the county. So again, they're not trying to make that recommendation. They're just recommending to the board that we do something to address that in a timely manner. Number 2 was to select a firm or an outside agency to come in and conduct a facility study to evaluate facility conditions and outline and prioritize all needs. Also, a part of that same survey was to develop information and have somebody come in and conduct a capacity study that includes analysis of growth patterns and potentially looking at specific neighborhoods. And then also, lastly, develop a long-range master facilities plan that really incorporates all of that. So you talk about different studies, and sometimes people put them interchangeable, but they're really different things. One is a capacity study, so facilities capacity, how many people can we hold based on the programs that we're going to offer, because CTE requires more space, special education students require more space, so you can't just count on one for one. Also, it's facilities conditions, making sure we're doing the routine maintenance, whether it's HVAC or painting, flooring, parking lots, any of those types of things. So the other thing is the master plan would incorporate everything, not just our instructional facilities, but all facilities, transportation, maintenance. You're trying to utilize all of our acreage around our district to be able to meet those needs. So really incorporating that process. To get that done, we would have to go out for an RFP or an RFQ to solicit that information. Obviously, we'd have to bid it out, as it'd be more than $5,000. We're probably looking at closer to about $70,000 for that cost to get that done. But the feedback that, in listening to the committee, they really felt strongly that a document, something like that, having somebody else come in, do that analysis, and they've got that expertise, and that way we can act on it as we see fit. And what we would do, or what we would recommend, is obviously we can come in this evening and recommend that you all accept these recommendations that the committee's provided, and also to direct the administration to begin the process of coming up with some ideas to address overcrowding in a timely manner. In other words, not the long-range things. If it's building schools, it takes 3 to 5 years to design, build, and do all those things before you open up the door. And the other one is to go ahead and do an RFP to bring back a recommendation to have those studies done, which that would take us, estimated timelines, I'm going to say 60 to 90 days to bring that recommendation in, and you're probably looking at 90 days to get the study done, just depending on how busy they are. So next steps, stop there. Next steps, obviously, I just got through going through those, looking at overcrowding in a timely manner and an RFP to solicit services for doing those studies. The other thing that we challenge the group with is what needs to be the next steps for each one of these groups. Because I really want to make sure that committee knows that they're playing, they've got a key role in this as well, and we really we're listening to them. We want them to be a part of that process. So they felt like what needs to happen to support the plan, the district leadership as well as the board, they need to be open and honest with communications. They need to communicate with the community. They need to address capacity issues. They don't need to sit back and just take this and listen to it and not take any action. Launch a strategic communication plan. We talked about that with a couple of those members and how we can improve in our district of telling our story about where we are as a district and making sure people know it builds that trust and that transparency with people. And then allow the community time to digest change. It just takes time to open up these campuses and do that. And then publicize the needs and recommendations. Let's be honest with people whenever we say, our facilities are in good shape, but if we're seeing this influx of folks, we have 2 options. We know they're coming. We can either wait, kick the can down the road, bring in portables over the years, and then maybe later on down the road, we take action as a district, or we can try to be proactive in it and plan ahead and see if we can get some mindset behind this and not be so reactive. As a community and stakeholders, they felt like listening and being open-minded and having those ideas. Discuss with their friends about the problems and solutions. Educate themselves on the district's problems and needs. In other words, they need to be seeking this information as well, not just the district pushing it out. So be a part of the be a part of the learning, being inactive or being active in classrooms. I actually talked to a couple of community folks the other day about coming into our CTE program and doing some guest lecturing, so that was pretty interesting. Tour existing facilities. We need to open those up so that people know what our facilities look like. They need to get involved and trust and listen to board administration. Obviously, that's huge. They felt like themselves as committee members, they need to be prepared to explain the recommendation and answer questions. They need to share their new knowledge and get others involved. So they did gather some knowledge that was new to them, and they need to share that, not just sit on it. They need to be a voice and support the goals and recommendations, attend board meetings, answer questions, and support the district. Volunteer to be a part of the next steps, because we will have next steps as we move forward in this process. And then seek out partnerships, make sure we're doing that. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that? I don't know, I know Mr. Shodrock was on the committee. Mr. Gooch was on the committee as well. If y'all want to chime in, you're more than welcome to, as to what the committee's input was.
It was a very extensive and lengthy process, but I think as the group of community members got together, it was interesting to see how everyone was able to kind of pull together with a common understanding of what the school district needed. So I was wondering how we'd get to the end, but the facilitators did a good job of bringing to the surface the things that were important and not going in with that preconceived notion that we need a bond. That was never discussed. What is the current needs of the district? So we're good.
I would agree. Like I said, we had some great conversation with some community members that they were involved, and it was good to see. And we had them sitting with other people that it sparked a conversation, and I think we had a lot of we had administrators at every table and every group, so they kind of made sure we were staying on track. But a lot of great conversations took place. Mr. Roots, anything?
No, I agree. It was very good.
So I'll just add, not being able to make those meetings, I wanted to, but looking and going through this and reading everything that we've looked at, that's something that from years past we've been looking for, and it's right in line with what we've always talked about.
Correct.
So without bringing that to the table with y'all sitting there, that's what we've talked about, and it's at least the community is reacting, and hey, they're seeing the same thing we're seeing. It's not just, hey, somebody says this, we're doing that. No, it's everybody on the same board, and that's what we needed. That's exactly so. Thank you for getting all this put together, because instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it and getting some portables, which worked for a while, but now we need to start looking further down the road, but further might be closer. So
It's getting closer every day.
glad they're seeing the ball rolling.
I will say, since I've been in the district 2 years, obviously a lot of people have talked to me about growth and this and that, and a lot of ideas, and here's what we need to do, here's what we need to do. But it was good because now it's not the board, it's not the superintendent. This was the community coming together. Granted, it's not the entire community, it's 40 people. But they've come together and affirmed what we thought already. And so that's why it's so key to have them involved in that process. Now, how we move forward, once we get this study done, we'll talk about and discuss that later. But ultimately, in the end, if it needs to come out, we need to have some larger community meetings, and that's what we'll do. So we'll get that feedback from them at that time. But at this time, the administration recommends the board accept the long-range planning committee recommendation and direct the administration to conduct such studies as presented.
I'll move to accept administration recommendation.
Vote
I'll second that.
All right, Mr. Shodrock seconds it. Any other questions? All in favor, let me know by raising your hand.
Okay. Thank you,
Board.
board.
Our last action item is to consider approval of attendance waiver presented by Mr. Schroeder.
Good evening again, board. On Thursday, April 6, 2023, classes were canceled at Floresville North Elementary due to a power outage caused by a storm. I believe it was a lightning strike at the Eagle Creek substation. This weather-related issue impacted student attendance at all campuses across the district. Districts or campuses can request a waiver to excuse any instructional days from the average daily attendance and foundation school program funding calculations that have attendance at least 10 percentage points below the last school year's overall average attendance for the district or applicable campus due to inclement weather, health, or safety-related issues. On Thursday, April 6th, our district attendance rate was 13 percentage points lower from last year's overall average attendance, which qualifies FISD to apply for the TEA low attendance waiver. Are there any questions, board? If there being no questions, administration recommends the board approve the TEA low attendance waiver.
Do we have a motion to accept?
I move to accept administration's recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Woods makes the recommendation. Motion.
And I second.
Mr. Schroeder. Well, yes, not you, Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fleer.
Fleer.
I know his name better than I know you. Mr. Fleer makes the second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, let me know by raising your hand.
Thank you, board.
Now conclude our agenda for this meeting. Is there any further business? Hearing none, meeting is adjourned at 8:11 p.m.